Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fantaseries Book Club. We are discussing the second book in the Villains series today. It might be a trilogy, we're not so sure, but because the third book is not out yet, we are going to kind of cut our little read-along short for the Fantaseries Book Club, because usually we will read the entire series, one book every month until we finish it up, but in this case, kind of stuck here. So we are discussing Vengeful today. This is a book by V.E. Schwab, and it is the second book in the series. So if you haven't read the first, you might want to cover your ears, mute the live, something like that, because we will be soon getting into spoilers. But we are also going to continue on next month, or actually this month, it's December now. We're going to continue on with a brand new series, which actually everybody who is a part of the Fantaseries Book Club who voted in our Discord chose. So we are going to be reading Bridge Kingdom next. We're actually going to do that on Jess's channel. So very exciting. But of course, if you have read Vengeful already, whether you read it along with us or on your own time, let us know what you thought of it, and we are going to take it away in a second. Fellow co-hosts, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah.
And maybe say like what you rated the book, something like that.
Yeah, let's hit it. Hey guys, my name's Christine. I'm one half of the Roomies Digest. I rated the book a 4.5 stars.
Nice.
Hi guys, my name is Jess. My channel is called Books Past Bedtime. I just finished this like an hour ago, so I'm still processing a little bit. But I feel like it's like a solid like 3.5, 4-star read for me.
Nice.
I liked the second book better than the first book. Could have been because I missed some of the first book when I was snoozing and listening to an audiobook, but it's okay.
It is what it is. It's okay. And I think I gave the book 4 stars. I read it a little bit ago, but I'm pretty sure I gave it 4 stars flat. So it'll be fun to discuss. We do have an additional co-host who unfortunately could not be here today, but that is Nicolee from Bon Bon Reads. So everyone's linked in the description in case you want to catch up with anybody. We are all linked down there, as well as the Discord, which you should definitely join. But let's talk about the book, I guess. So I guess we'll officially kind of get into spoilers now, so we can just spend the whole hour just chatting about what we thought. Yeah, once again, let us know what you rated the book if you did read it. So yeah, so Jess, you liked the second book better than the first. Christine,
I really think I think that's all.
Wait, what?
Wait, that was very glitchy for 1 second. Say that again.
Oh, sorry. I think I liked it better because I was conscious for the entire thing.
So
I really think that's the only difference.
That makes sense.
You're not awake for the entirety of the first book, though. That's fair, I guess.
You like wake up, you're like, what happened?
Yeah, I did that this morning. I woke up really early at 5 a.m. and I still hadn't finished Vicious, so I was like, oh, I'll just get a head start. I'm totally awake enough to listen to this right now.
I was going to ask you when you finished Vicious, because I knew you were still reading it.
Yeah, I finished it this morning and then read the entirety of Vengeful today.
Oh my god.
You're committed to the book club.
I'm trying.
You girl bossed very close to the sun, but not too close. You made it just in time.
Yeah, Jess is the one. She's the one who can do it.
I always think I can, and then I was an hour in advance that I finished it, so I was like, "Oh, I'm ahead of schedule. I'm doing great."
What about you, Christine? How did you feel in terms of like book 1 versus book 2? Because I think you gave book 1 5 stars, right?
No, I gave 1 4.5 too.
Oh, okay.
I felt the same about both of them, but that doesn't mean that they're the same book, if that makes sense. As in, they're 4.5 for different reasons for me. The first one, it just has such a great setup, and I think just kind of tabbing it and also having it on audio, it was just like a great freaking time. It was also unexpected because my expectations were super low for V.E. Schwab. So I think just kind of going in, not really expecting anything and just kind of being like, all right, it is what it is. I enjoyed it a lot more. Plus it has those kind of like mystery aspects where you're trying to figure out what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, what is the thing? So I think that's one of the reasons why I gave the 4.5 to the first one, just because the setup was so good and The characters are so good, and then the ending is so good.
Yeah.
And then I think for Vengeful, in contrast, obviously this is a different book. We have a whole new cast of characters as well as our old characters. And I can kind of see why people wouldn't like that, I guess. But for me, it's like an expansion of the world, and it's a continuation of the world. And I think in fantasy a lot, you know, people get kind of bored in series when you've got the same characters and they're going through the same stuff. And you're like, okay, where's the development? You know, where's the stuff? And I think in this one, we have, even with the characters that we already have, we have really nice character arcs. And even the characters that we're supposed to hate in the second book, we still see kind of like why they're evil. And that's like one of my favorite thing about a villain is kind of knowing their origin story and why they suck, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's why I enjoyed this one in a different way, but also just as much. And Marcella also is like so freaking bad A. Like I love her.
I have
the
thoughts
first
about
page.
Marcella. I have some thoughts about Marcella. We'll get there when we get there, but I have some positives and some negatives, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
But I mean, like, I also agree, I guess, to an extent. I think I ended up giving Vicious 5 stars just in terms of like I just really liked it, and I'm not feeling too much like I have to reserve my 5 stars for absolute favorite. I was just like, well, I had a really good time. 5 stars, there you go.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Whereas I think this one, the problem is I finished Vicious around the same time that I also finished Vengeful, because we had our Vicious live show. So y'all told me what happened in a general way because I hadn't finished the book by then. And then I was like, well, I kind of already know what happened. I'll just start Vengeful. So I started Vengeful, and then I was like, well, I can't finish the second book before I finish the first book. So I binged the rest of the first book, and then I finished the second book. So unfortunately, it's very hard for me to tell both of these two books apart.
The way you can do that, like, just thinking about that gives me anxiety.
Yeah, I probably should
Like
I should have read a recap before I came here, but I think I remember what happened. Does anyone want to do a recap anyway, just in case?
Yeah, for Vengeful.
Yeah.
Jess, go ahead. You read the whole damn thing.
Yeah. We have somebody else who finished today, too, and everyone knows it's so impressive. So come on, take it away, Jess.
Thanks. Well.
Do you want me to do it? I'll do it.
Okay, once upon a time.
I was like, Jess is gonna literally murder me. Okay, so basically what happens in Vengeful, recap. This will be spoilers, just so everybody knows if you're in the chat and for some reason you're here and you haven't finished it. Anyway, all right, so we start off the book with this fun character called Marcella. She's a mob wife, and she gets killed in a like house fire essentially by her husband. So her last and final thoughts are vengeance, and she is going to survive. So obviously she becomes one of the EOs. And in this continuation of the story, obviously in the end of Vicious, we know that Victor pulled a fast one on Eli and got his butt put in jail. So we have a couple different POVs in this one. We've got Eli, who is in I forget what the jail is called, or like the prison is called, but like the EO prison with the, like, what is his detective, whatever his name is.
Stell? Was it detective?
Or Stark, whatever.
That's
Stell or something.
Stell, there we go. Stell.
Stark is an Avenger.
Yeah, I was like, whatever his name is. I get them confused because I'm like, these are basically superheroes. But yeah, so he's with Stell. He's in the prison, living out his days, you know, up in a prison. Then we've got Victor, Sydney, and Michael.
Mitch.
Mitch?
I know the characters' names, but don't know the plot.
Sorry, guys. I read this book like so long ago. Mitch. And this is why I told you to recap it, Jess.
Well, I just really liked Mitch, so I couldn't stand for that injustice. But
Jess can fact check.
Oh wait, and Doll.
And Doll, the dog that's died 3 times and been resurrected.
Yeah.
So we've got those characters, and this is interesting because Victor's kind of going through this he's kind of sick, like as in he is dying since he was brought back to life by Sydney, right? So he's dying frequently and kind of staying dead longer and longer every time he dies. So he's trying to figure out how to fix himself, and one of the things that he is doing is trying to find an EO that can like heal him. Okay. So in the process, Victor's policy, he's like, we can't leave any prints behind, we can't leave any people behind. So everybody he comes into contact that's an EO that doesn't work out, he ends up killing. And that's leaving, a trail for Stell to kind of follow. So that's kind of how we start off. Stell ends up enlisting Eli to help him kind of track whoever's killing the EOs, but we know it's Victor. And then Marcella is just going on a bender, dude. She goes and kills her husband. And then she's like, F it, I'm going to be the new mob boss. So she's collecting all these EOs, or well, not all these EOs, but she's collecting, EOs that can help her. And she's kind of making her empire because her whole thing.
Then she meets June.
Right.
Who...
So June, who's the new character, she's the shapeshifter. Like if we had to compare it to X-Men, she is the Mystique character. And June is so interesting because the whole time you don't really know what her power is. You just know that she can change faces and stuff. But then you find out later that literally if this woman gets shot, she doesn't actually get shot. It's the person she stole the face from. So it'd be like if I stole Jess's face and then somebody shoots me, Jess is the one who's going to get shot, not Christine. Not Christine, baby.
So she's basically like a living, changing voodoo doll.
Yeah, she's basically like a voodoo doll. That's exactly it. And like, this is a side note, y'all. I'm ranting on the, on the recap, but I really want to know her backstory. Like, I want to know what she was thinking, how she died to like give her this power of being like, I don't want to be myself. Like, I want to protect, myself in this way or like whatever. So Monique's so funny. This girl's in the other room. She's over here commenting on the live show.
Mo, just be on the live.
I have this actually off the wall theory that June is Angie. Because like whenever she goes to her real form, it's like a curly red haired person. I'm like, that's the description of Angie also.
Isn't she like...
I thought she was like a little young girl and she was buried by her family in the ground.
It's possible.
What?
Felt like the...
Where did that theory...
I don't know. I just thought the descriptions of them were similar and I thought it was weird.
Wait, I missed that. Was that part of her backstory? I missed that completely.
Wait,
was that on the Reddit forum or what?
Wait, which part?
The part where they...
I know what Rachel said or what I said. Oh,
well,
yeah.
I thought there was a part where... I thought there was a part where she said something like I don't wear my usual face all the time because it was kind of implied that it was like really dangerous because if she got shot, she would like actually die. But it also sounded like she was very uncomfortable in that skin. And I remember there was like some description about like, her body was buried by her family or something like that. I don't remember the exact phrasing other than that. Like thing, but also who's to say Angie was not buried by her family because she died in the first book. So
do we know if Angie is Scottish or not, because the narrator is Scottish for the woman?
I don't think it was ever described that she was actually Scottish. See, Mo has the same theory.
Yeah, I would have to go back.
At least I'm not the only one. At least it wasn't just a product of me not paying enough attention.
No. That's a really good theory. If that ends up being...
That's a really good theory. Why did Ms. Schwab not tell us that though?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, this book obviously can't be a 5-star because there's like, if she left it at 2 books and we had only that book as the end, I'd be like, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. This is Addie LaRue all over again. Quit it. Quit it. But, I'm like looking forward to seeing a 3rd book where we can kind of get more of these backstories. Because I think that's also one of the important parts about Eli, even though he sucks and like he is a psychopath, like 100%. You do see kind of like why he's a psychopath because of his father and kind of like the way that he was raised and, things like that. So I don't know. I enjoyed this one. I liked it a lot. Don't plan to, yeah. Yeah, I honestly never would have read these books, I'm not kidding, if it wasn't for book club.
It's funny because we both read Addie LaRue, and that was our first V.E. Schwab, and we were both like 3 stars, except for every time we talk about it, we're like, ugh. So it probably was like much worse than a 3-star, and it was obviously worse because we're both like, why would I ever read V.E. Schwab again?
Those are the only one you've read by her? That's crazy.
We only read Addie, and then we read these 2 books now.
Okay.
Well, because we were reading
really
like
need to read her
adult.
middle grade series. It's the
Yeah,
best.
yeah,
It is
exactly.
So good.
I was like, I feel like
Magic,
if it
I liked
wasn't
when I
adult.
read it, but I remember absolutely nothing about it. It did not stick with me at all. So.
Well, I got the first 2 books as a gift, so I will end up reading them for sure, but I heard Vicious was like her best work from somebody who has like relatively similar taste to me, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this, and I'm really glad I did, because I did really like Vicious. I mean, there is also a really significant difference, I think, between the writing in Vicious and Vengeful. It's a little bit hard to tell what's going on in Vengeful sometimes because it jumps really often between like 10 different timelines, whereas Vicious, there were really only like maybe 3 or 4 timelines or something, if you consider also like Sid's like leading up to like, you know, meeting her sister and Eli at the school. So I mean, like, there's a lot to keep track of in general in the story, but you only have basically like 3 timelines to follow. Right. Whereas this one is kind of like, it's 10 years ago, now it's 15 years ago, now it's the present, now it's 2 nights ago, now it's like 10 days later, and it's like, cool. Like, you know, I really do need like a whole timeline, but it also kind of feels unnecessary because I don't know why I don't know why we're doing that, because it doesn't seem like we really need to be jumping as often.
Yeah, the time jumps in particular is what would throw me off, especially when I was just listening on audio, because I'm like, what's going on? The jumping between characters, I never mind POV shift, but the time jumps sometimes were kind of confusing. So I'd be in the middle of a section and be like, this doesn't make sense, and like the product of the last thing that I listened to, but it's just because there's a time jump.
Yeah, I don't think they're necessary for the story, but for some reason, I don't know. I kind of liked the whiplash. I don't know how to describe it, but like when I was reading it, I kind of was like, yes, let's go. You know, I was like, let's go and like kill these mobsters, and like, let's go and like figure out what Eli is doing because he's a psycho. Like,
you were just excited about the plot. Like,
I was drinking the juice. Okay. I was like, okay, go ahead. Pop off, Vengeful, damn. But I do think it's interesting that we're talking about the writing, because Vicious is her first adult fantasy she's ever written, right? And then obviously Vengeful, and then Addie. And I think it's also interesting that she does all these time jumps in all 3 of those books, because that's how Addie LaRue is, that's how this book is, that's how Vicious was. And I think I almost want to say she like wrote the first one and she was like, yes, this is good. Yes, let's do it. Yes. And then in this one, she's like, let's add a little more. Let's be a little more crazy. Yeah, blah, blah. She got tired and she said, no more books for this series. Like, we're done. I'm going to do Addie LaRue and go back to the roots and like do it like, you know, kind of like in 2 time jumps, like 3-ish. And so it'll be interesting to see like when she writes this 3rd book, kind of how it comes either if it's like the first or if it's kind of more like Vengeful, but I feel like it'll be more like Vicious. So
I'm scared it'll be more like Addie.
This could make or break my relationship with V.E. Schwab. It really could.
Read City of Ghosts first before you make that.
Okay. Actually, I have that on
It's her best work. I don't even care.
You'll have
on my TBR because we have talked about that before.
See,
anyway, yeah, that was a rant. Sorry, guys.
No, we love it. So what you're saying is you weren't gonna read my Rex, huh?
Money, why are you putting Dash Mo? We all know it's you. I'm not up in here going like.
Christina's commenting on our own live.
I know, I'm like,
we have more viewers.
He's like, now talk about this part.
Yeah.
So, well, I meant to do that one, but okay. Also, just quickly back to the writing thing. I feel like Vicious had kind of a very clear beginning and ending, where you sort of have like the nature of these 2 characters who are at odds with each other, who started out as friends and end in enemies. And there's kind of like a tragic cycle to it in a way where it's sort of like we have to destroy each other. And then the way that ends, and then how they kind of come out the other side. So having them at odds again in the second book is fine, but I kind of feel like with the addition of the other characters, it does make it more interesting, but it kind of seems like it's a little bit more all over the place in a way, because there isn't really a straight shot of like these two characters, let's see what happens with them, and there will be like one big final confrontation between these two. But in this case, and we're still talking spoilers here, in Vengeful, when it finishes up, Eli is there, Victor is there, and there is a big confrontation, but it's really not quite about them in terms of like meeting at the gala and then like, oh, we have to take down this other EO, and then having a moment where they kind of fight each other. But it just seemed like, I don't know, the vibes were off for me when they had the confrontation with the doctor who basically made them like not have their superpowers anymore. For some reason, it just felt like it happened really fast. I remember rewinding the audiobook and being like, did that happen? Right? And it just happened like very, very quickly. And there was a moment where like they're fighting each other, but really it ends up being Sid who shoots him. Right? And he dies because he doesn't have his regenerative powers anymore. Tiny plot hole there. I do believe that this is supposed to be a whole thing of like Victor having taught her how to shoot earlier in the book. And he was like, I'll teach you how to use a gun. At the end of Vicious, she does already have a gun, and I think she said like, my sister taught me how to fire a gun, because she shoots at like Eli at the end of Vicious. So now she's shooting at him again at the end of Vengeful. So I guess maybe it's kind of like, it kind of felt like they did the same thing again. And in this way, I guess because they're both kind of such giants in their own way, but for it to end in such a kind of like
lame way,
poof, like it just kind of was over already. I was like, oh, I thought,
I feel like I really thought like that they were in the final confrontation that they were going to kill each other. Like I thought they were both going to be dead at the end of the book, and so I was kind of surprised too how kind of anticlimactic that fight scene was. But I feel like it's that way in a lot of fantasy books. Like it builds up so much, and then the end is just
meh.
Yeah, you're like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this honestly feels like a second book in a trilogy, if that makes sense. Like that's what I was getting. You know what I mean? It was like I don't want to say it's a filler book, but like that's kind of what it felt like, because it had so many different plots and like so many new characters, and it's kind of like she wanted to expand the world while also keeping the original characters that everybody kind of like loves. Because Vicious, in my opinion, is so good. Like especially that arc of just kind of seeing the two guys, you know, go through everything together, and then in the end to have it be that tragic kind of ending. And so I think in the second book, she me speaking for the author, but like I think she just kind of was like, okay, we want to have it be tragic again and have like the same parallels, but also like incorporating all these new characters so that we can have novellas and like have more things and blah blah blah. And then it just kind of like fell
out in a way.
Yeah, because she was like, oh well, I don't even know where I'm going because I'm just writing. So
yeah, I don't know. And I also think like because of that, with that sort of meandering, the writing itself also kind of felt like it dropped off. Whereas I think Vicious, even though there were some things where I was like, well, this isn't like 100% my perfect writing style, but I still like it. There were like things that happened in Vicious where I was like, ooh, like that's kind of clever. Where for instance, like near the end where Victor is telling Sid, he's like, burn all of these things and you have to do it one at a time. And you can kind of tell he's doing it to like stall her at that place. And she also has that realization and she's like, you're going to come back, right? And he's like, of course, I need my favorite lighter back. And you're just kind of like, oh, haha. Like there's like a fun, like, I don't know. There's a lot of elements there that are kind of fun to think about. Whereas I think in this one, it was not, that stuff wasn't really there. I just kind of think events happened, characters did things, but there wasn't really like the same level of, yeah, like there wasn't really that kind of like nod to the reader of like, look, I'm doing something like really particularly clever that you're going to be thinking about for a while. It was kind of just like, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, the end. So I did kind of wish there was a bit more of that. Obviously I still liked it because I still gave it 4 stars, but I did wish there was like a bit more of that fun writing style, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of like second book syndrome in general, because I feel like authors, like the first book in a series, they put so much more like time and effort into it and have more time to revise, but then once they're contracted for the second book, they have to
really
down.
and
yeah.
just don't go through it as many times and don't like perfect it quite as much. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably what that was.
The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, should I have given it a 4.5 or should I give it a because I'm like, I definitely liked Vicious more. So now I'm like rethinking my decisions. Anyway.
Well, let's talk about characters because there's definitely some, there are definitely some things to be discussing here. For instance, not everybody makes it out of this book alive. And also we get a lot more people who are included in this book that we didn't get to see before. Do we have any favorites or least favorites that... Yes, Jess?
I just have a question about the doctor guy.
The doctor was crazy.
What was his deal? Like, why was he not...
He's a freak.
Was he not alive? Was he a zombie? Why didn't he have any emotions? Why was he like...
I think he was just a scientist.
Was he taking that like power suppressant thing? And like, I just did not understand his character at all. Like, what is he doing? And why?
You're talking about the one who was like operating on people, right?
Yeah. And like at the end, and like he was the guy that June got no feeling from at all.
Yeah.
And like,
I don't know. I don't know.
And at the end, they like, I don't even remember. I don't know.
I think
it was weird. I didn't understand.
I think maybe it was kind of meant to be an example where, for so long, we've been told that EOs are people who died and came back, and because they died, they're missing something, so they're not quite the same. But for June to look at a person who is not an EO and to feel their aura and be like, oh, this guy, there is nothing here, I guess it's kind of meant to show that, like, just because someone died and is an EO and comes back and they're different doesn't mean that they're, like, necessarily, like, worse or better or anything like that. And there are plenty of people...
They're not, like, absent of emotions or morals or memories, but he was.
Right, so it's kind of...
So was he just a sociopath?
I was thinking he was an EO.
I wondered that too, and if he
was
had, like, an extreme shield around him or something.
Yeah, like I don't know what his deal was. I'm not sure if we're ever gonna know that. But like I was thinking he was an EO because she said specifically like June's power is, when she touches people, she sees basically their whole life, right? And like she knows all their thoughts and their feelings and blah blah. And so the first time she touches Victor, she doesn't get anything, and that's kind of opens the door to her power. And we understand as a reader, like that's what she does. And so I think her just kind of mentioning the thing about the doctor, I think to me, I was like, oh, so the doctor is literally an EO.
Too, but was there a scene where is she able to tell if someone is an EO, or is she just able to get a vibe from them?
I don't think she can tell if they're an EO or not, but I think she just kind of is like, EOs feel this way, or like they don't feel this way, and like humans do feel this way, because when she touches a human, she can like take on their thing. Whereas I want to say an EO, she can't because they've died, right? She can't take on... Oh, wait, no, she was turning into EOs, huh? Wait, was she?
I don't remember her turning into any EOs.
Wait, because she turned into Mitch, but like she didn't turn into
any. Mitch wasn't an EO.
Right, exactly.
Because I was thinking is like every single character in this book, I was like, are they secretly an EO or not?
Yeah, like who's who?
Even like Mitch's chapters in Vicious, I was like, oh my god, he's an EO. Oh my god, he just doesn't know. Maybe something happened. He's repressing them. And then later on, I was like, okay, he's not an EO. But like, it just constantly made me question what it was. But I feel like with the doctor, I was definitely getting mixed signals where I was like, either he is an EO, or it's supposed to be like, here's a human who is even more emotionless than people think EOs are, and it's a proof of like humanity type like conversation to be had. So I don't know what the Schwab was actually intending here.
Yeah, whichever way it wasn't clear enough for me.
Yeah, so. She probably honestly didn't know.
Yeah.
Either. She probably just put that in there to be like, we'll come back to this.
Yeah, I think it could have been refined a little bit.
But now he's dead, so is he going to come back to life again? I don't like revival things, so that's annoying to me. But
well, see, that's the rough thing. Is like if you kill people and they're dead, then you don't have to worry about them coming back as an EO. Right. But this kind of seems like now, I don't know. It just kind of opens a whole can of worms that like all these people that they fight, they don't know if they're going to just come back as EOs unless they make sure that they are like fully gone.
Burned dead.
Yeah.
Which is why he was saying burn the body, burn
Yeah.
Victor's body, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because Sydney can bring back humans. So it just depends. Like, I guess we'll see.
Well, see, that's the other thing is like, if you were dying and your last thought is what turns you into a superpowered person, how many thoughts can you possibly have that are really that different? So it would make you think that there are probably a lot of EOs who have the same powers.
Mm-hmm.
Because if people are like, oh, I want to go back, or like I want to be brought back or something, and that's what makes you think like, I'm brought back to life, and now I
But then wasn't it like a two-parted thing? Like it was the last thought and the way you died.
Yeah,
and that's why
shot.
Marcella could like burn people to ash, basically, because she died in a fire.
Her thing was like, I'll ruin you or something like that, right? So her whole thing was like ruination.
Yeah, so I think a perfect example of this, and it's actually shown in Vengeful, is the kind of parallel between Eli and Sydney. Because Sydney's having these dreams about Eli, right? And she's like, oh my God, we're going to be the only two people on the earth. And that's going to suck because he wants to kill me and like, whatever. And I think they both died in similar ways where they were like, I'm not going to die like this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be the one. And so their powers are like preservative powers. They're like, as far as like, not Sydney bringing people back, because obviously that's a different power, but like as far as her not aging, right? So it's like a preservative type of power.
Well, I think whatever age you die at when you're an EO is the age you just stay.
I don't think that's true because they thought it was weird that Sydney wasn't aging.
Yeah, Victor gets old. Victor physically gets old, whereas Eli's like 20 something still. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I misread that part. I thought that everybody just stayed the same age. Okay.
No, I don't think so. I think
and they talked a couple times too about like Victor not being there anymore to protect Sydney, like because she implying that she was going to live way longer than him.
Right, and she's already like younger than him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a whole interesting plot line too. Because I'm like, ooh, you're gonna live forever, girl.
Maybe she is Addie LaRue.
Oh my God. Yes.
It would be so silly. That would be so silly.
There is a scene in Addie LaRue where she's next to a bunch of dead bodies, and then we just never see anything about it ever again. So
the way that, anyway, we don't have to get into that. It's like I don't want to rant on Addie right now.
Can't think too hard about Addie LaRue. I'll get upset.
Yeah, I'm so upset. Anyway, but yeah. So I think they have like similar powers. They probably had similar thought, and that was my point. Full circle moment.
Yeah, I mean, because they are kind of each other's enemies in that way. Like Victor and Eli are the main like mortal enemies, but Sid has. I think we talked about this because I was like messaging you while I was actually finishing Vicious. I don't remember. Oh, okay. I have the book. Hold on a second. But I was saying this whole thing about how like Eli and Sid would have worked well together if they were on the same side, but they're not. So I mean, like, okay, here's what I wrote. Sydney's power is the ultimate symbol of Victor and Eli's experimentation in which they bring back the dead as EOs, which is, Sydney's power, and it works in opposition, removing that power. And Eli's hell-bent on taking out Sydney. He wasn't pleased with the idea of Victor dying and coming back with his own power, but that's exactly what Victor seeks. Sid's alliance with Victor symbolically makes sense in that way, though pragmatically, if Eli wanted to eliminate EOs, he ought to employ Sid to bring back the targets he kills without their powers, and it proves Eli's true nature. Because it kind of seems like the more Sydney, I don't know if she can really control it, but it kind of seemed like when she brought back people, their powers are kind of like messed up or something like that. So maybe like they don't work anymore. So if that's something that she seems to be able to like, I guess she can't quite control it, but it kind of seems like if his whole thing was like, I want to eliminate EOs in terms of like, technically he's not really like they're evil. He's just like, I don't want them to have superpowers. I think, it's hard because on the surface he is a very like religious guy, so he kind of thinks they're like abominations, and that's why he's eliminating them. But it does seem like below the surface he's really just like, I need to be on top. Yeah. So I want to get rid of everybody. So in that way, bringing people back, it just kind of seems like, these are two people that kind of work in opposition because of what his true goals really are for Eli. and then what Sydney represents as a threat to his goal. And that's kind of why they do work in opposition, because Victor has cool powers, but it kind of doesn't create like an exact equal balance with Eli, whereas Sid does. And that's why like she and Victor together are like such a threat for Eli in the end.
Yeah. Power couple in a platonic way.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, I got that too. I think another two that are kind of like similar that I noticed was June, and then I forget the soldier's name, but whatever his name is.
Dominic?
That dude. Who could
Dominic? Who could
Dominic, yeah, who could like go into the dark place or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that they had similar powers in a sense of like they took themselves out of their situation. And I think, Dom kind of explained when he got blown up, he was like, I just wanted to be in like a dark, quiet place and like kind of didn't want to be where I was. And I kind of feel like obviously don't know what June's backstory is, but I feel like hers is a similar kind of thing, right? Where she like didn't want to be where she was. So I do think that there are powers that have similar thoughts, but like Jess said, it's kind of like however they die, that's how it manifests.
I bet June was thinking something like, I wish I was anyone but me right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, if Dom had like kind of tweaked his a little bit, he could have like, become a shadow thing, or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But like it also is like a power that would have helped him in his situation where he died to prevent him from dying, because he could have just stepped out of that moment.
Then he
whereas
wouldn't have died.
like something like that, like shape-shifting, wouldn't have helped him in his dying moment.
Well, okay, so speaking of Dom, he dies in this book, and I don't know why he had to die, because he literally he could just stop what's going on, walk over there, start it, grab someone, stop again, and leave. So like it just kind of seemed like he got killed off for no reason.
I felt like that too. I was kind of like, what just happened? Like, why?
Yeah, like she wanted to kill somebody
again, and I was like, really? Like I don't.
She was like, I have to make sure this is emotionally devastating enough.
We were still like, why did this happen?
She had like a tally, a quota.
Oh yeah, wait, guys, about the other agent who was an EO.
Oh yeah.
Did anybody guess that?
No, I had no idea.
Wait, which
it was the woman. The woman.
Her name was Rio, I think.
Rio, yeah.
Refresh me.
Through walls.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, she just worked in Eon with Dom.
Right. I was like, ooh, so Stell is a baddie.
Not in a good way. Well,
he's over here employing EOs.
Also, Stell also dies in this book.
Oh, I forgot that happened.
And it's also extremely fast. And also...
Probably why I forgot, honestly.
I want to know if he knew that he was employing EOs. He had to have some kind of inkling. I mean, because he had Dom's folder and was like, "Is this you?" And Dom's like, "No."
Oh yeah.
He just hired him anyway.
His like right-hand man, He was like, I mean, he loved her, So I mean, I don't think Stell's stupid, but maybe he had something on her, or maybe she just did it to do it. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Who she had some weird superiority complex like Eli did.
Oh yeah, parallels between him and Eli for sure. Definitely. It's just what side of the screen are you on? Are you in the prison or outside of it? So, I think something that was really interesting in this book, as far as characters go, with Sydney. So she ends up practicing her powers because she's trying to bring her sister back, and she ends up getting this like bag of bones, which is a bird, right? And she brings the bird back. And I think her power is so interesting because she describes it as having like threads of life. So she has to pick all the threads, and if you don't weave them in the right way, the thing comes back kind of like messed up. And so I think it was interesting because Rachel, I think you mentioned this before, how she's trying to bring EOs back, but when she brings an EO back, they're not quite the same, right? And that's what's happening to Victor. He's going through these like episodes of death, essentially, because he's not supposed to be alive.
Right.
So I think it would be super interesting if Sydney can practice enough where she can bring an EO back fully without having any like issues. And I think that might I don't want to say that might be a plot point because who knows what VE will write about, but I just thought that was super interesting that she can literally bring bones to a living person, like what?
Because at that point, it's basically like giving back life with just the bare minimum.
The bare minimum.
Yeah. But also, I thought it was a really interesting choice that she basically, maybe she didn't perfect it, but she was really good at this point, and she had she had Serena's bones, and she just decided not to do it.
Yeah. Well, because ultimately Serena was not
a good person.
Right. Like, she loved her sister, but like, she was out for herself.
Yeah. And I think she finally kind of realized that she was very corrupt.
Yeah.
And just morally corrupt, like not really, I wouldn't say like not worth bringing back, but it would be a very bad idea to do that. Mm-hmm. But I do think that like that relationship wasn't really that developed in this book. Like we see her do it and we kind of like can put the pieces together and say like, oh, maybe she doesn't want to do this thing anymore. But I think most of the focus now is really on June with Sid. And so that's kind of like a new sisterly relationship in a way where it's not exactly quite healthy because June is kind of like, I'm going to protect you by not telling you anything that's going on.
Right.
And she is looking out for Sydney. And every time she finds out like, there's a problem, she's like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to make sure that Sydney's okay. But she's really not, treating her with the, I guess, amount of respect or the amount of attention of actually making her aware of what's going on. And instead it's kind of like, stay in here. I'm literally going to drug you so you stay in this apartment and I'm going to go somewhere else. Which is, I kind of feel bad for Sid. Like, she's not happy.
I feel like I missed this. Like, what was June's interest in Sydney? Like, how did...
It has to be something to do with her family. Like, she's having some kind of like attachment because it's reminding her of her family. That's what I think, because her attachment to Sydney is not right. Like, it's really weird. I remember like thinking this as I'm reading it. I'm like,
so too, and then I'm like, psycho. Where did this even come from? Like, I feel like I missed the reason.
Yeah, it's like it's very strange. And it's interesting that you say that like the sisterly relationship switches from Serena to June, because her deciding not to bring Serena back, that's solidifying Eli's whole mantra of like, once the EO dies and becomes the EO, they're not the person they were before, right? And so that's kind of what Sydney realizes. She's like, my sister before is not who, died and who, whatever, who I would then be bringing back again. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that she has that same, parallel that Eli had. But as far as June goes, and this is why I'm so interested in her like backstory, I'm like, what happened to you, girl? Did you have a sister that died and like
looked a lot like Sydney or something? Like,
right. I'm like, why are you so interested? Because the whole time I'm reading that, I'm like, June is acting crazy. Like, she's literally drugging Sydney, and Sydney's not 12. Like, at this point, she's like 17. She looks 12.
Yeah.
But yeah. But like, she's older. You know what I mean?
Because like they meet on a hill, and June saw Sydney bring a bird back to life. So it's like, okay, obviously you're an EO, so little connection there. But it's not like June hasn't been like seeing EOs this entire time.
So she doesn't care about any of them really.
And like, I guess maybe a lot of EOs probably aren't as young as Sydney looks.
Right.
So like, fair to the degree of like not trying to take out a 12-year-old looking person, but at the same time, it definitely seems like there's a lot going on. And like, they basically were like texting all the time and communicating with each other the whole time in secret.
It was weird. Like, if a man was doing that with a young girl, I'd be like, this isn't right. And I
thinking about it like that, I'm like, that sounds like grooming to me.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, we don't have to like put a label, like a gender on it, because I still think it was weird. I still think it was like grooming in a sense. Because she was like coveting her. She was like, oh, I'm gonna.
And even that weird comment where she was like, she wanted to lead Sydney to pick her in the end or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's
she was grooming
her to pick her over Victor.
Yeah, she was trying to figure out. She was like, should I kill Victor? And that's when I remember being like, if this MFer kills Victor, my love, I'm gonna have to curse V.E. Schwab's name forever. I'm sorry. But then she had that weird moment where she was like, no, I can't kill him because, like, she's got to pick me. You know?
It was. She was so, like, extremely calculating to the degree, which, like, I guess is kind of like what we talked about again with Eli, where he was like, when in the first book when he killed the janitor, he was like, I gave him every opportunity. I got in my car and he could have, you know, taken a different route home, but then I kept accelerating and he could have, like, driven faster and, like, what, and, like, he basically justified the way that he killed somebody, and in the same, like, twisted kind of way. I mean, not every villain in this series necessarily thinks the same way, but it is kind of, again, like, self-justification of, like, hold on, I want to accomplish this goal. Let me reverse engineer this. If I kill the person that she likes the most, I think she'll hate me, so I won't do that. Okay, let me find a different way around it. Instead of being like, murder's bad.
Right. Don't do it. Right.
Don't do it. And also, like, why? Like, I don't even see why she would be like, I need to kill Victor now.
I don't know, but it would be really interesting if they had a little face-off in the end.
Yeah.
Because he can't, like, hurt her while she's somebody else.
Yeah, so I mean, she does feel like one of those very undefeatable people, but I guess because V.E. Schwab killed off Dominic in this book, he was also a very overpowered power type character, so it feels like by getting rid of him and introducing a new one, it leaves fewer options for how you would actually fight each other. Because I mean, if you step out of time, you win.
Yeah, Dominic was killing it. I mean, it sucked that he was hurt all the time. Like, he had, you know,
chronic pain. And it was really horrible.
Right. But, like, his power was really cool, in my opinion.
Yeah. So anyway. Do we want to talk about Marcella while we're still on characters?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Marcy.
Betty.
I really liked Marcella.
I liked her a lot. I think the only real thing that I did not love about her, even though, like, you know, she does, like, climb to the top and she is, like, this very badass type person, she often just keeps making, like, the exact same remarks over and over again about, like, ugh, men, ugh, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, you're right. But I just kind of feel like it was very one-dimensional in that way, that I kind of expected a bit more. But she kind of like, oh, men, ugh. And she would just, like,
from the beginning. Yeah.
So I want a teeny bit more, a little bit more.
Yeah, her. She started off super, super strong. And then I think in the end, even her end was underwhelming. I was like, bro, what?
Again, like, every character who died in this book, I rewinded and listened to the whole thing again to be like, did they actually die? Because, again, each one, like, went out with, like, a flop. Like, it was just, each character was just, okay, I guess they died.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I really, and also I kind of felt that way when she killed her husband, too. Because when we started the book, I thought we were going to be basically watching her, like, go and kill him the whole time, right? Like, plan the whole thing out and, like, go and kill him. But I guess because her power is just so great, like, so intense, that it's like, where do you go? You know what I mean? I guess this is something that writers have to go through. But if you give your characters too much power, then, like, once they do the thing, what do they do? What do they do after that? You know? And that's kind of how I felt with Marcella. It's like she climbed to the top and then was like, she kept going. And then VE was like, oh, well, we'll just kill her. Because, like, we don't want to deal with her later. So, just kill her.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of already talked about the whole, like, writing thing. But I guess it does create more problems because all the characters kind of going in their own different separate direction, and once they accomplish all their goals and they're super powerful, it's hard to figure out, just speculating, where they would even go next, because they're already the top dog and they're already, you know, they've done everything they want to do, and, like, every character needs an I want statement of what they want to accomplish, and once they have it, they do just lose a lot of steam because they need a new goal, they need new, you know, challenges and new things to accomplish for any reader to really understand, like, why are they doing the things that they're doing, instead of just kind of being like, more power, I guess. But it kind of seems like she did her thing in, like, 3 of her chapters after she got her powers, and she was already, like, done. Getting revenge.
Yeah, she was done. I do think the serum is, like, a game changer, the like, power thing. But I feel like there are all these interesting elements to the plot, but I'm just not sure the execution was as like smooth, you know what I mean? Because I always think, oh, that's a cool thing, and then it like, where does it go? I don't know. You know, where does it go?
The serum also got introduced at the very end.
Yeah, with the crazy doctor. I was like, this man, he's a psycho. He's making serums and gassing people. I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah. And then also there was that other character, John, who I guess could just like think about someone and they were just invincible now. Because he could like
oh, yeah.
It reminded me of Bella's vampire power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, yeah. Poor John.
Natasha said, also, what was up with Mitch saying, I bring problems wherever I go? Because he was always like, I'm cursed.
Yeah, he's got perpetual bad luck.
He was my favorite character.
I loved Mitch. He was great.
Mitch is very cool.
He's like such a good dad figure to Sydney too.
He really is. Like he really cares about her.
Yeah.
I mean,
feel like Victor was kind of like her uncle.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have, but I feel like Mitch was like the one that was like always there for her.
Yeah, he was definitely like more close to her, I want to say.
And he also did like those very clever type things to kind of keep her entertained, as far as like, let's pick a card, and then like if the card is this, then we'll do this. And certain things were like, I'll teach you how to do this, or like we'll do this activity, and if you get this, then you're allowed to go outside. But you know, let's find a way to keep busy. And he still was kind of like, you know, we have to do whatever Victor says, but he was kind of like the dude running the place whenever anything had to be done. Everything he was doing, like all the caretaking, I guess.
Mitch is the OG, honestly.
Yeah.
He's the best.
I like just have a soft spot for characters who are like big and like brawny, but then they have like a soft spot for like a child, or like are really good with kids and things like that. I don't know. I just think it's a fun character type.
Yeah.
So I loved Mitch.
Yeah, but to answer this, Natasha, he has like perpetual bad luck. So it's just something that he says.
Why I thought he was an EO for a long time.
Right. Me too.
Like, I'm cursed. I was like, are you cursed? Or...
yeah, like what does that mean? I still have questions about that. I mean, I guess he is not an EO, but I'm like, what are the odds that every single time you get into like a group setting, someone dies, you know?
Yeah.
Is it really just because you're big, or what is it?
Who knows?
We may never know.
We may never ever know.
Yeah. So we'll see.
What did we think about Sid's general development over the course of the story? Because I think this story really focuses a lot more on her. Because, you know, she has a lot more spotlight, I guess. I will say, I listened to this one by audio, and I really did not like the narration of Sid, because it was always like very nasally. And
annoying. Yeah.
Like when I read the first book physically, so I was like, all right, okay. And then when I started listening to the second one, it was like, I don't want to go outside anymore. I was like, okay, why did they make her sound like that?
She's 12, okay? She's not a mouse. Like
she's not a mouse. Oh god.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I liked her power development. I thought that was great. And there's something about her and Victor's relationship that, like, I don't know. I just was like confused, kind of, in a sense of not like anything like sexual or anything, like not like that, but like I'm just confused whether she loves him or not, like as a human, like that's around. Like obviously she loves Mitch, and like she loves the dog.
I feel like they had a really close relationship at the end of Vicious, but so much time has passed with Vengeful that it kind of seems like they've grown more apart, because it seems like they don't really do anything together anymore.
Well, and I'm trying to figure out, is it because she's 17 and this is like hormones and that's what's happening? Like it's just natural for you to kind of gravitate. Because she did have those moments where she was like sneaking out and like texting June and like, you know, doing her teenage thing. Yeah. Right?
I feel like it was Victor's fault, because he was having all these issues and he wasn't telling her, Sid, and like, because he didn't want her to feel guilty for it and whatnot. Right. And like he was always off doing things by himself, like without them.
True. Yeah, because he didn't want them to know how bad it was.
Yeah.
Which is also
Obviously,
silly.
at the end, he kind of goes off and does his own thing. So
Yeah.
But it's also silly because if you have a teen in the house and then you have any conversation and then you don't tell them about it, they're listening.
oh yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just definitely thought that he acted differently than I thought he would.
Yeah, I think they all kind of, not that all, but like Sydney and him both acted differently. But I couldn't tell if it was because she was, a teenager or what. Victor went through a lot in this book, okay?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he was dying a lot, constantly. And he was also responsible for, like, keeping Dom and, like, other people to minimal pain. So, obviously he didn't want to die for multiple reasons, but... we have a supportive comment. You got this. Do the 5 and wash your hands. Well, thank you very much, I guess. Anyway, I definitely felt like Victor was just acting a lot more coldly in this book, and he just like really wasn't down with the found family that I thought we had established at the end of the first book.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. He was just in pain and dying a lot, though. So I'm like, he was sick.
Yeah.
I feel like he just was trying to figure it out. And that's his thing. He likes to problem solve. He likes to solve like puzzles and
he's a very like lonesome type of like I'll do it myself guy.
Very
but
independent.
I guess also like he is kind of like the glue of the little found family. So like when things fall apart with him, then Sid naturally kind of feels like I'm being neglected and now I'm going to start acting out. And then Mitch kind of tries to like, course correct.
Right. So it's like that parent that like doesn't give you attention. But when you do get attention from them, or like you're always seeking attention from them. So like when you get like a pat on the head or whatever, then you feel like $1 million.
Like more special. Whereas like the other parent, which would be like Mitch in this case, gives you a lot of attention. You're like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Which, again, always feel bad for Mitch. Best boy.
I know. Making breakfast and being cute. But yeah. Hopefully that made sense. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, we're getting to the end of our hour. Do we have any other additional final thoughts about the book? I didn't leave dull companion.
This reminds me. Yeah, final thoughts. I was getting kind of sad when Sydney was telling me that she could see the gray around Doll's face. I was like, dang, everybody's gonna die and Sydney's gonna be 12 still. Like, what? So I think for me, what I want to see in the next book would be a way for her, because she's clearly developed her resurrection power.
Yeah.
I would love for her to develop her preservative power. And I think what's interesting in this book is we realize you can figure out how the powers work. And what I mean by that is like the doctor operating on Eli, right? So we figure out you can have like this tiny piece of metal inside of Eli and it won't be ejected. But that's all based on like trial and error. So I would love to kind of have Sydney develop that. Maybe not something that I want to see. Like, I don't really want to like go through all that with her, but like if we skip 5 years and she's like, oh, now I can speed up my aging so that like I'm normal or whatever. I think that would be really interesting to see. Because otherwise, like, that girl gonna be alone for a long time. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, also I think her
like
powers.
Addie LePew.
No, what? No. Oh, Addie LePew. Her bestie.
Her powers
they should link up.
So sad because like her power literally involves dead people at all times.
Yeah.
Like it's I don't know. Either way.
Yeah. And even like somebody like June is still aging. Like she's like, I'm not gonna be around forever. You know what I mean? Like when my body dies, it's done.
Yeah. Well, actually, back to June real quick. There's a little thing at the end about June sneaking in to the place, and she's just like, "Oh my god, my car broke down." oh, I hope a handsome man comes and helps me. Hi, my name's April. And I was like, okay.
I forgot about that, yeah. But she was doing that to delete her file, right?
Yeah, she kind of just like erased herself from existence, is what I took it as.
Right.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that she'll have some fun chapters in the next one, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, she's definitely a bizarre but interesting, pretty interesting character. So.
You know what would be super crazy if we saw Victor become cuckoo bananas like Eli. So like
I feel like it's possible. Like Victor definitely wasn't like all good guy.
No, for sure not. And I think him killing people so much, like killing all the ELOs and the EOs in this one, I think like there could be a point where he turns and he starts maybe trying to make an EO that can help him. And it's kind of like a X-Men Magneto situation, you know what I mean? He's trying to like get somebody to help him, and in doing so like ends up hurting, all these people. And that would be, I would like that. It would suck because I love Victor, but like that would be a really cool kind of like full circle moment from him being,
So Victor disappears at the end of this book.
Right.
And he's just like, I'll be there. And obviously it's like, well,
yeah,
no,
he wasn't there.
So it kind of makes me think that the next book will follow the other characters we already know, and Victor's only going to show up at the very end as a big like hero moment when like everything is falling to shit, and all of a sudden he'll appear and be like, I heard you needed help. Like, yeah.
I almost feel like since it started with Victor and Eli, they both have to be eliminated. Like I still think that in the end Victor will have to perish.
Yeah, it just depends on how she wants to write it. Like, does she want to write it like everybody's a villain? Everybody ends up being a villain. What's that one quote that's like, it's like you're only a hero until you become the villain or whatever. Like heroes die.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
There you go. I was like that. I feel like that is she like heard that quote and she was like, I've got a series I can write. Because I truly think, I think Vicky could go either way, but it would be interesting to see him go villain, like full villain, just like bad to the bone. And then maybe Sydney has to kill him.
It's funny that
did I just write
him Victor? Her name is Victoria.
What?
Why did she do that? It's funny that she named him Victor when her name is Victoria.
I did not think about that at all.
Wow, Jess, I missed you. Can you come back?
I just thought of it Vicky, and I thought you were talking about the author, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, she's talking about the character.
Yes, Vicky. Oh, you're right. I didn't even think about that. It's because I haven't read the YA one, so I don't think of her as Victoria. Yeah, I wonder if she did that. I wonder if she based him off of her. What if Victoria Schwab is an EO?
What if Victoria Schwab is a serial killer?
What if she's a villain?
Oh my god.
Sorry, no, you just had a moment where you were like staring off in the distance.
Like that freaking meme.
Just kidding. I don't actually believe that. Don't sue me if this makes its way anywhere.
For legal purposes, this was a joke.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You meant like a cereal that you eat.
Yeah, that's what we meant. Definitely.
Captain Crunch, baby.
No, I'm just covering my bases.
Yeah. Anyway, I think those were my final thoughts.
I also didn't even know that there was a third book in the works. I really just thought this was a duology.
I thought the same thing. And then somebody in the Discord was like, actually, she's going to be writing a third book. I don't know why I gave him that voice, but yeah.
They're in here and they're offended and won't ever come back.
I hope not.
So sorry. I feel like I saw something on social media about her writing a third one that was like, I don't know, like official from, I don't know if it was her Twitter or something else, but I feel like I saw it.
Isn't there like a novella to this too?
There are novellas.
Okay. Have you guys read any of them?
I read Warm Up, which is the really short novella that gets teased at the end of Vicious, so it's like in between Vicious and Vengeful, because Eli's still alive.
I got Addie LaRue teased at the end of mine.
I just had the thing that said, like, the end of Vicious, it says, like, a woman no one can remember and a story you'll never forget. And I was like, not by choice, but you're right. Like, this is all I have.
I actually have never
like,
read it. I just keep making jokes about it, but I have not read it.
I'm just so glad that I didn't buy that book.
Yeah, I am.
Anyway, yeah. What were we even talking about? Every time we talk about Addie LaRue, I go through like I like black out. I'm
Sorry.
like, what?
You just leave to another plane.
I forget. Honestly, I forget everything. You know what I mean? Except for Addie LaRue. It's like,
sorry, I was in my hate plane. But I did read Warm Up, which was like this really tiny novella. I listened to the audio, and honestly, I don't know why she wrote it, because it was just really boring. I guess.
What was it about? Like, who did it follow?
I forgot his name, but there's like just there's just a man, and hold on a second, David. Okay,
Christine, are you okay? It was funny, but it wasn't that funny.
Steve, why'd you have to mute yourself?
I read Warm Up. And I don't know why she wrote it.
I don't know. It wasn't that good. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, it's literally just like
the truth.
So in Vicious, you know, we meet like a lot of EOs, and basically it'll be like some set of the main cast meeting them and killing them. And so we just meet like 8 EOs, and it just ends up like they just die.
Oh, right? Yeah.
So it's like the same thing, but they just flesh it out a bit more. So it's about a guy named David, and he has a superpower, and his marriage is falling apart, and he like walks to... He can like burn things. So like he walks around to... I think he gets drunk at a bar. He's walking home, and he puts his hand on the door, and it ends up like burning a little bit, and he's like, oops. And then Eli finds him, and he just says this whole thing about like self-righteousness, like his whole righteous spiel, and then he just kills him, and then it's over. Oh, sorry to spoil the novella, but it's over. So it's super short, and it just ended. So I don't know why that was necessary to make a separate...
Not to make another Twilight reference, but it reminds me of the equivalent of A Short Second Life of Bree Tanner.
Our resident Twilight expert.
What is that?
It's a novella about this girl who's created into a vampire, and like the vampire army that comes in.
The little girl.
Like, she dies at the end. Like,
oh, I think I remember this.
And it just gives her like a little backstory, and then ends with her dying.
She just can't get off Twilight, can she? She's doing Gender Flip. She's doing Edward novella. She can't get off it, can she? The host is pretty good. She should do some Gender Flip.
Yeah, I like the host.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. I don't think we need to do Gender Flips anything, really.
That book. Anyway, yeah.
Anyway.
The novellas, right. Yeah, so I haven't read any of them. To answer your question.
I would be definitely down to check out the graphic novel series, though. Extraordinary.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. I like graphic novels.
I think that's about, like, completely different characters, I believe. And maybe there's, like, a couple of little cameos from the main cast. But, let me search it up just to make sure. But I think it's about, like, a girl who can see people's, like, death or something. Like, she sees how they're going to die. And then it, like, makes...
I would hate that power. That would suck. That'd be worse than Sydney's, in my opinion.
Yeah. It looks pretty rough. I cannot find it on Goodreads. Okay, I know I can find it on Hoopla. But I can't find it on Goodreads. 1 second. Hold on. Oh, it's in parentheses. No, it's not. Okay.
While Rachel goes down her hole, Jess, what do you want to see in the next book? What would be the perfect next book for you?
The perfect next book.
You're like, the first two weren't perfect, so.
Well, I think they're just not perfect for me because I'm not a superhero person. So I don't know. It's not like I don't watch Marvel movies or anything like that. So but I feel like the things we talked about, like getting more of like a backstory for June, like seeing her do some interesting things would be cool to me. Like continuing to follow her. And also I think it would be really cool if like everyone turned out to be a villain. Like I like that idea because it's so different than anything else.
Just the good guys prevailing, you know?
Yeah.
Except Mitch. Mitch can stay good.
Yeah, Mitch is a good guy.
But
Very
honestly, he'd
cool.
probably end up dying, so.
But yeah, I'm sure V will just kill him, so we don't have to worry about that.
She'll be like, as soon as Mitch dies, Doll will die, and then that's the end of the good people.
Actually upset if either Mitch or Doll dies. Like not that everybody else can die and I'll be fine, but like Mitch and Doll are untouchable to me. Like you don't do that. No.
Oh, when she faked this out and she like made us think that Mitch had died, I was like, man, you're on thin ice with me, buddy.
I was so emotionally not prepared for that.
Like, I remember being like, VE, we're gonna have words.
And it was in like the middle of a chapter too. So then it was like, now we're just gonna talk about something else. And I was like, no, excuse me, rewind for 1 second. No?
We just write her a strongly worded letter.
I do that. I actually
do you really?
Things. Yes. If I'm upset about something, I will write a letter.
Do you send it?
Oh yeah.
You send it?
Yeah.
To V?
Yes.
Have you gotten any replies ever?
No.
Oh.
No. But that would be a funny like video if I just started writing authors and being like, so what do you think about this?
You should see if any of them are on Cameo and like send them your opinion. As your message and ask them for a response.
Oh my god.
Did we just think tank an idea? I think we did, yeah. I'd have to make it interesting though. Like what would I even I'm gonna think about that. You just
yell at V. Schwab about adding the room.
I don't want to do that. I don't like want to tell the author that I don't like their stuff. That'll make them feel bad.
Yeah, I feel like that's very personal. But it would
like
be
if they ask me
like what authors are on Cameo.
Right, yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. If VE came up and said, so what do you think about adding a room?
You would be like, I read it.
Yeah, you know, that's how my Goodreads are. I'm like, this would be perfect for this person, but it wasn't perfect for me. Here's why.
That's nice of you.
I try not, because I'm like, they still took time. I don't want them to feel bad.
I'll try to be like that one day. I usually just rate and move on. But sometimes I need to have words.
Oh, well, I mean, sometimes the 2.5 for 12 Days at Christmas, I'll never forget it. So.
I'm excited for that conversation. I'm very excited for that. Also, I did get a hold of the description for the graphic novels for
go.
So it's in the same world, and it's about high school student Charlotte Tills, who is revived from a fatal bus crash, and she awakens with the rare and potentially dangerous ability to see how people will die in the future, and she is forced to go on the run when she witnesses her own death at the hands of Eon's top assassin, Eli Cardale. So obviously this takes place before Vengeful, or somewhere in the middle. And now to save her own life and protect her family, Charlotte must go on the offensive and hunt Eli down before he can find her. So I wonder... includes the short story warm-up in print. Well, I don't know why they did that.
They really want you to read that fan fiction.
It's not very good. It's not good. Anyway, the cover looks cute.
The graphic novels look really cool.
Oh, yeah.
So,
but we're assuming that she does not survive in the end, right? Because isn't that what Eli's whole thing is?
I guess so.
Also, it would depend on her power, because if she sees somebody's death and then they literally die every time, then obviously she's gonna die.
Yeah.
So that's horrible.
But I wonder if it'll be kind of like a like different, what do you call it, like multiverses where there's like a different alternative history type thing.
Maybe.
Or maybe.
I don't know, man. I don't know. VE, she's just doing her thing, living her life. Being a free woman, you know?
VE is just doing whatever she wants.
Just doing whatever she wants. Ruining my life. Anyway.
Well, VE, if you're out there.
Really liked Vicious. That's honestly, actually, if she came up and she was like,
if she was like,
Rue, I'd be like, really liked Vicious.
Yeah.
Really liked it.
And she'd be like, no, I said Eileen Rue. Like, huh? Yeah.
Vicious?
Yes.
Quality.
Loved it. It's very good.
That's what I would do.
Well, with that, I guess we'll wrap up our little Vengeful live show. Luckily, it is available to stream, so in case you missed it or you're only coming in now, the whole thing here for you to observe. And this month, I keep forgetting what month it is. This month, we'll be moving on from the Villains series for now and reading the series, so you'll be able to check everything out that we're doing in the Discord and on Jess's channel. Jess, do you know what Bridge Kingdom's about?
Nope.
Christine, you want to tell us about Bridge Kingdom?
Yeah, I'll tell you what it's about because I've read this book already. So Bridge Kingdom is a fantasy book about these two kingdoms that are at odds against each other, and to kind of placate the war, the conflict, there is a princess who gets married off to a king. Okay? Little does the king know the princess is an assassin. Dun dun dun. So then there's a little hate to love romance, and chaos ensues because she's a trained assassin and she is supposed to be killing the king of the other nation. So this is a very interesting plot line because it takes place on the Bridge Kingdom. So like the kingdom that they are actually in is just this big like bridge that spans over these islands. So it's kind of like piratey in a sense, without actually stepping on a ship. But like a lot of the scenes that they have in this book are like very much like, you know, they're trying to like protect the bridge and like do all this stuff. So it's pretty cool. But that's like a basic level of what it's about.
So this hate to love romance. Is it like, is the romance like the Cruel Prince level, or is it like We Hunt the Flame level?
It's past both of those. It's an adult romance.
But which one is it more like?
Yeah, I'm talking about like in terms of angst and my investment in the romance.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, it'd be somewhere in the middle because Cruel Prince is like the creme de la creme of like angst, right?
Yeah.
But like We Hunt the Flame, I was like, what? Y'all really said Instagram up in here, huh? Insta love. So I don't know. It's somewhere in between that because they do go through stuff together. But, you know, it's not that long of a book. So it's like, you know, it's not that in depth.
Oh, it's not that long.
Yeah, it's a pretty thin book. Hold on, I actually have it right here. I'll show you what it looks like. Oh, but it's gonna.
But you're also implying that there's some smut. Is that correct?
A quick read for us. Yeah, there's definitely some smut in there, but yeah, to put into comparison, like this is Victoria Aveyard.
Oh my god.
Yeah. There are 340 pages.
Oh, nice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be doing just the first two books for this read-along because the third book technically came out, but it's only on Audible, so we didn't want to, you know, kind of put up that paywall for anybody. So if the third book in the Villain series comes out and the third book in the Bridge Kingdom series comes out later on in the year, who knows, we might circle back. But for now, we're only going to be reading those first two. So in case you want to, you know, get your library holds out there or purchase the book or anything like that, that's our plan. So we're going to be doing all that stuff on Jess's channel. So once again, of course, all the hosts are linked in the description. So do make sure that you go check everybody out and go subscribe to them. So we're going to do reading sprints in December and probably a live show in January, I'm pretty sure. Because obviously holidays are coming up, might get a little bit busy. So
about to get busy up in here.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching and hanging out with us. And watching this back in case you are. And of course, we do have everything in the Discord, including discussion channels. So if you want to discuss the book with us before the live show, make sure that you jump into there and head over there. We just opened up the channels today. So yeah, I think that's it from us. And we will see you around on the internet.